Good evening, I'm Pinky Webb. Tonight we ask the questions, we tackle the issues, we clarify matters, and we get on point. Can candidates accept donations from government contractors? Questions have emerged after Senate President Chis Escudero admitted to receiving 30 million pesos during his 2022 campaign from the president of Centerways Construction and Development. The company secured over 5 billion pesos worth of government flood control projects. Should the Commission on Elections step in? Let's get on point with COMELEC Chairman George Garcia. He joins us via phone patch. Chairman, good evening to you and welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your time.
Good evening, Ma'am Pinky, at to all the televiewers. Good evening po sa inyong lahat.
Chairman, is the COMELEC looking into campaign contributions to candidates that may have violated Section 95 of the Omnibus Election Code?
We are now, Ma'am Pinky, since or after the recent controversy, we directed our Political Finance and Affairs Department simply because we have, of course, we do not have any record as to who are the so-called contractors or those with the existing contracts, whether services or public works with the government. And because of the recent controversy, it brought into light Section 95, paragraph letter C of the Omnibus Election Code, and therefore this is the time that we can go back since 2010 to look into possibility of candidates having received donations, contributions from contractors.
Yeah. Chairman, could you please repeat who's heading this? Is it an investigation already? Can we call it that?
Yes, Ma'am Pinky, there is an office in the COMELEC in charge of the Statement of Contributions and Expenditures. We call that the PFAD, the Political Finance and Affairs Department. It is actually the department which happens to be the repository of all the Statement of Contributions and Expenditures filed by candidates. And so even if we are to go back to 2022, we have to understand that an election offense will only prescribe in 5 years. So you have 2022 up to 2027, or if the irregularity or violation occurred in 2025, such expiration will happen only in 2030. So may jurisdiction pa naman po kami. What is very important now is because of this recent controversy, naging interesado tayo ngayon that there is such a thing pala as contractors prohibited from contributing to candidates.
You've been an election lawyer for quite some time as well. You have represented a number of officials. Did you know about this? Were you aware of it?
Yeah, I am fully aware of this, but I have not handled a single case involving this particular provision of the Omnibus Election Code. I think none of the present practitioners or the former practitioners have ever handled cases involving Section 95. And therefore, ano po ito parang hindi naman case of first impression, but because before kasi parang acceptable, parang okay lang na hindi na tinitingnan na contractor pala yan ng government. Ang sabi ng 95, ang Section 95, Ma'am Pinky, any instrumentality of the government or agency. So it doesn't necessarily mean national government, kahit local government pwede.
Lahat pasok. Lahat
yes,
po
Ma'am
pasok
Pinky.
Yeah. So
in fact,
go ahead, sir.
In fact, Ma'am Pinky, the provision speaks of natural or juridical persons, meaning to say it can either be a corporation or it can either be an individual by itself.
Yes. Sir, I'd like to read that for those watching us. We're going to put that again up on air. We're talking about the Omnibus Election Code, Section 95, which actually says on Section C, natural and juridical persons who hold contracts or subcontracts to supply the government or any of its divisions, subdivisions, or instrumentalities with goods or services to perform construction or other works. So we're just not talking about construction here. We're talking about other works as well. But what I wanted to understand from you was the word, can we put that back on air, the juridical? Ano ho ba ibig sabihin ng natural and juridical persons?
Yung tao, tayo ma'am, tayo ang natural person sa corporation code, sa civil code of the Philippines. Yung juridical persons, we have to understand, yung po mga korporasyon, sila po ay
I see.
binibigyan ng status ng batas na parang tao. They have the rights, they have the obligation, they have the right to exist, they have the right to own property, to dispose property, at meron din silang the right to be dissolved after, for example, 50 years. So parang tayo, namamatay din tayo. Ganun din po ang juridical entities katulad po ng mga corporations or yung mga partnerships na tinatawag.
I see. So it really refers to companies or organizations. Yung juridical
Yes, Ma'am
persons.
Pinky,
Okay.
that's right.
All right.
Directly, that's the exact meaning.
Okay. Sir, so sabi nyo nga PFAD will head this. This is under, of course, the SOSE of the COMELEC. Ano po. So when did they begin the investigation, and was obviously, I'm assuming this is motu proprio?
Yes, Ma'am Pinky, I made the instruction the other day when the controversy first emerged, simply because, Ma'am Pinky, we have to understand, when the candidates submit to COMELEC the statement of contribution expenditures, we would like to admit that we are much limited only to just looking at the documents and the attached documents to the SOSE, meaning to say, for example, the advertisement contracts with media companies and networks, or even social media platforms, or yung mga hinire nila na artists, celebrities, so social media influencers, o yung mga biniling gasolina, etc. But as far as contributors are concerned, nakalagay lang, nakadetalye how much was contributed by a sister, how much was contributed by a supporter, and therefore, ang kalimitan nakalagay lang doon, businessman, o kaya naman a friend, a classmate, and therefore, we do not have a background as to the business endeavor of these so-called friends or whatever.
I see.
Kaya po napakalaking tulong itong bagong development na ito, including the participation of the public.
So yung donations, you're saying, Chairman, under there or included in their SOSE actually says friend? It doesn't really identify the name of the donor?
I actually identified the name of the donor, and for example, yung ano yung status ng donor na yon, negosyante siya, yung iba po, mother, father,
Opo.
so yung relationship
Friend.
with the candidate,
Yeah.
yes ma'am, yun po yung mga nakalagay. Pero syempre, pag classmate during high school or college, hindi naman nalagay kung ano pala yung nature ng negosyo. Yun ang dahilan, Ma'am Pinky, kung bakit since dito pong 2025 election, for the first time, we publicized already the statement of contribution and expenditure. So meaning to say, you can see for yourselves, yung pong mga nakikinig at nanonood, yung pong lahat ng SOSE ng candidates sa ating pong website ng COMELEC, so that you can help the Commission go further and deeper into the investigation of the SOSEC. Before, we can only find out whether the candidates are overspending or underspending.
Yeah.
Kaya namin ma-determine kasi we can always compare documents. But as to going deeper, that is what we'll be needing from the public, simply because we may not have that necessarily means, or the documents as submitted may not be enough to determine culpability based on Section 95.
Yeah, obviously, Chairman, what triggered this was the President Bongbong Marcos, after he identified these companies, and then of course, lumabas na po yung media connecting, let's say, for example, Centerways Construction to the man, Lubiano, who actually, Lawrence Lubiano of Centerways, who actually donated, was actually the top campaign contributor of Senate President Chis Escudero. Just quickly, something came to mind, sir. When you were saying that obviously you were a campaign election lawyer, you knew of the Omnibus Election Code, Section 95. But when you were designated or appointed as chairman of the COMELEC, hindi ho ba ninyo naisip that this was something that needed to also be looked into? Or sa dami ho ba ng inyong ginagawa, ay kahit kayo ay nakaligtaan po ninyo ito?
Hindi naman, Ma'am Pinky. Actually po, we are fully aware of that. That's the reason why we created the Political Finance and Affairs Department. Wala po kasi yung department na yan before. And for the information of the public, hindi nga po siya regular department of the commission. It has more or less 38 personnel. It's not even officially created yet with the imprimatur of the Department of Budget and Management, and yet it is performing a lot of jobs, reviewing 48,000 SOSE for every election, for every given election, and it had been existing for the last 2 or 3 elections. So, yan po yung trabaho ng PFAD namin at yan po is specifically yung role. Ang kaya lang po, Ma'am Pinky, is again, we are still using the 1985 Omnibus Election Code, circa 1985, and it will require a lot of revisions already. But just the same, kahit tingnan natin yung Section 95, it's very clear the title, Prohibited Contribution. So, alam na natin, ito lang po yung problema natin rin dyan, Ma'am Pinky, and perhaps this may be a gray area, and alam ko this will be set up as a defense perhaps by anybody who will be charged under Section 95. Will Section 95 be applicable only as a culpability or liability of contributors? Does it even include candidates? That's one of the, perhaps the gray area. Number 2, na gray area. The question is, if, for example, I am a contractor of a government, in the government, and it so happened that I have a friend, a candidate, can I make a donation in my personal capacity?
Right.
Ibig sabihin, Ma'am
Right.
Pinky, president ako, pero kumita na kasi ako, so meron na nabigay sa akin profit. Yung part ng profit ko, can I give that to a friend candidate? So,
Chairman, just to cut you there, good point you were making, because that was also something Attorney Romy Mac was saying earlier with regards to a person giving campaign funds or donating as part of his personal savings, and that is separate doon po sa, sabihin po natin, doon sa kanyang korporasyon or organization that is actually engaged with government. But then that also begs the question, how do you actually distinguish which was personal money and which was money that you earned from government contracts?
and that is what I am actually saying and pointing out, Ma'am Pinky. That may be the argument of a candidate, or that may be the argument of a contributor or donor, but that may be as far as the COMELEC is concerned, it may be of a different interpretation or perspective. Sa kanila yon, iba yung interpretation namin. And therefore, I will not jump into conclusion. Sabi nga namin, if there is a proper case and if there is proper findings on the investigation, then we will make our own interpretation of what really is Section 95 as to who are culpable or liable under this provision.
Right, because you're saying that's also a gray area on culpability, whether it would also include the elected official or is it simply the donor?
Yeah, gray area in the meantime, because there was no case before in the past which can be based as a precedent o basihan natin para pagsabihin, nangyari na before eh. And therefore, since this may be the first time that the COMELEC will be encountering this Section 95 C as a case that may be cited, then we can now set a precedent on the proper interpretation of this specific provision.
Chairman, does the law actually distinguish a violation between yung pong pinakita natin kanina, natural and juridical? Does the law distinguish between an individual or a company that may be in violation of that Section 95 of the Omnibus Election Code?
And therefore, Ma'am Pinky, you actually hit the nail on the exact spot because of the exact wordings of Section C. Sabi niya, natural or juridical.
Hindi po or and. Hindi ho ba and?
Yes, and kahit pa nga or ang gamitin nandun eh. Kahit or and ang gamitin. So it means to say whether it is the company by itself or
the person,
the individual within the company. So tingnan natin when the proper time comes when the provision will be applied by the Commission.
Chairman, I hope you don't mind, no? For better understanding, Tagalogin po natin yung inyong sinabi lang ngayon. Sabi mo nga, you hit it right on point, no? So yung, ang tanong ko po, does the law distinguish, sinasabi, klaro ho ba sa batas? I guess yung tanong ko, na magkakaroon ng pagkukulang or violation sa pagitan ng isang individual or kumpanya. Could you kindly again reply in Filipino, sir, para po maintindihan natin?
Yung po kasing individual, hindi po kasi binanggit dyan sa provision na yan, kung individual na in his personal capacity or individual na dapat in the performance of his duty as one of the officials, for example, of that company. Wala naman po kasing binigay, sabi lang natural and or juridical person. So ibig sabihin, perhaps it was really written as such so that the COMELEC will have a leeway in the proper interpretation of the law.
Actually, hindi ho ba importante din, Chairman, to be very strict about that? Because if it's natural and juridical, ibig sabihin person and entity, hindi or eh. At least that's what I know, sir.
Yes, Ma'am Pinky, actually po, when it comes to violation of election laws, dapat, as far as the COMELEC is concerned, we will always interpret that strictly as against the accused. Kaya lang, syempre nga po, may principle din kasi sa criminal law that it is always incumbent upon the one who is accused to prove what we are saying. And to a certain extent, criminal law is always interpreted in favor of the accused because of the principle of presumption of innocence.
All right, we'll just take a very short break. We'll continue our discussion with COMELEC Chairman George Garcia when we return. Stay tuned. This is On Point. Welcome back. Still with us, COMELEC Chairman George Garcia. He joins us via phone. So I want to go back to the issue on the Senate President. Balikan ko lang po, Chairman, sabi nga itong Lawrence Lubiano, yung po yung donor, hindi ho ba doon sa SOSE ni SP Cheese of Centerways. Si Centerways naman po is part of the top 15 companies that cornered flood control projects. So what you were saying a while ago was that it might also be dependent if this person gave it in his personal capacity, savings po niya, as opposed to profit from a company. My question about that, sir. Sige, sir, if I did not get it right, please go ahead.
Yes, Ma'am Pinky. Of course, masyadong premature at this point kung sakali later on will be issuing the necessary subpoena for him to explain itong kanyang contribution or donation in relation to 2022. I do not want to preempt the issue simply because hindi ko alam kung ano i-set up niyang defense kung sakasakali lang dumating tayo sa point na yon.
All right.
But
Fair
again,
enough, sir.
Tama nga po yung sabi niyo kanina, it can be interpreted naman strictly by the Commission as against the defense of that particular respondent.
Siguro let's set that aside. Wag na lang po sila because it is premature. You know, it could be anybody, a governor, a mayor, at meron pong nagbigay ng contribution under, I guess this is what, ito po yung tinutumbo ko dito eh. Kung dumating po yung pagkakataon na sabihin naman ng isang donor na binigay ko yan out of my own money, my own savings. So galing pa sa tatay ko, sa nanay ko, doon sa business namin before, na walang kinalaman sa gobyerno, does it make Section 95 kind of like irrelevant? Or I guess another way to put it is, may work around pala. And then it becomes kind of like irrelevant si Section 95.
Yun yung reason kung bakit perhaps it's high time really, maganda rin po yung naging issue na ito for us to be able to examine Section 95. At kasi nga po 1985 siya na Omnibus Election Code. Pero I think it's still relevant up to this day, Ma'am Pinky, kasi simply number one, wala naman pong distinction, hindi naman po nag-distinguish ang batas kung ito ay personal capacity ang contribution or donation o yung mismong binigay mo ay dahil sa ikaw happens to be the owner, the officer or of a company who happens to have a service contract or public works contract with the government.
Which is actually where I wanted to go, just to end this particular topic, sir. It doesn't say that in Section 95 that kung pera mo na walang kinalaman sa gobyerno, pwede. Hindi din sinabi na kung it didn't distinguish, I guess, is what I'm saying. Na if it's your personal savings, it could be allowed. So where's that coming from, sir? Wala naman po siya sa Section 95 eh.
Yes, ma'am. And therefore, nasa amin kung paano namin i-interpret yan kapag kayong kaso ay naging right na. Sabi niyo nga, Ma'am Pinky, perhaps to a lawyer who will be a defense lawyer, ganyan yung magiging argument, that is, etc. Pero siyempre kami yung magiging prosecutor, and the determination of probable cause, nasa amin yung interpretation. So,
Okay.
again, I don't want to jump into conclusion, but the interpretation still belongs to us.
All right. Let's talk about the BSKE, sir. PBBM already signed into law the postponement to 2026. But again, election lawyer Romulo Macalintal filed a petition asking to declare this unconstitutional. Meron pang status quo ante, meron din pong TRO. With that filing of Attorney Macalintal, what direction will the COMELEC take now?
Ma'am Pinky, hindi po kami tumitigil ng paghahanda kahit na napirmahan ng ating Pangulo yung naturang batas. Simply because, number one, ang aming argument kinakailangan i-publish. It was already published in the official gazette. Number two, somebody will go to the Supreme Court and definitely will ask for a restraining order. Paano kung huminto kami, Ma'am Pinky, pagkatapos, without preempting the Supreme Court, nag-issue ng restraining order? Tuloy ang December 1 elections. Paano na yung abutin natin? We proceeded with the procurement. We proceeded with all kinds of preparation. Hindi po kami humihinto. When is the right time for us to stop? When it is really very clear na that the Supreme Court will not be issuing a restraining order.
But sabihin po natin they don't. The elections is actually set for November 2, 2026. That's November 2 next year. But that is a holiday. Hindi ho ba All Souls Day?
Yes, Ma'am Pinky, although we cannot, of course, kami po, hindi naman kami nag-set ng date niyan, talagang it's actually the Congress. Maybe because the wisdom of Congress is bakasyon na rin naman, nandiyan yung mga kababayan natin sa mga probinsya, umuwi dahil sa All Saints Day, All Souls Day, and therefore, sasamantalahin na lang na makakaboto sila. Of course, when it comes to the commission election, we do not have any call or any participation whatsoever on matters like this. Parang neutral kami po, Ma'am Pinky, sa bagay na ito.
But you're saying that it actually might work because it is a holiday, it being a holiday, November 2, 2026.
Well, this is the first time that we're going to have an election by November. Dati kasi election natin yung last barangay SK, October po, Ma'am Pinky. So this is the first time. And take note din, isa rin po sa problem is we always conduct the election by May dahil summer. Then when you conduct the election by October or November, usually yan yung rainy days natin. Minsan may bagyo pa nga ng November or December.
All right. Just also very quick, Chairman, mabilis lang po yung sa first parliamentary elections in BARM. That is set on October 13, if I'm not mistaken, sir.
Yes, Ma'am Pinky. Sa mga kababayan natin sa Bangsamoro, tuloy po ang Bangsamoro parliamentary election. Kauna-unahan, yung mga nagdududa pa dyan o nagsasabi na baka talagang hindi matutuloy, tuloy po. We are 90 to 95% prepared na, the commission election. And therefore, despite the fact that there is no reapportionment at this point, of the 7 seats originally coming from Sulu, we will proceed with the 73 if that is the case.
With what? Sorry, sir.
Because the parliament is composed of 80 members.
Right.
Yung 7 po, ma'am, ay galing sa Sulu. Sabi ng Supreme Court ay hindi kasama dapat ang Sulu sa Bangsamoro. Until today, it had not yet been reapportioned or redistributed by the parliament, yung 7. And so 73 pa lang in the meantime. It's not the role of Congress or the COMELEC to make the distribution. It's the role of the parliament. But even if 73 pa lang ngayon, we will proceed with the election by October 13.
Thank you for correcting that, sir, because from what I researched, it's supposed to be 80 seats, hindi ho ba, up for grabs, 40 party representatives, 30 district representatives, and 8 sectoral representatives?
Yes, ma'am. 40, 32, and 8. So all in all, 80, but yung 7 po kasi niyan coming from Sulu.
Right.
But because Sulu was already removed from the BARM, then the remaining provinces will have to get one or several more members based on the redistribution. Kaya lang hanggang ngayon, wala po yung redistribution law.
Just a bit of a conflict or a problem, rather a concern, doon po sa balota nila or doon po sa choices nila dahil meron daw nakasulat na none of the above?
Yes, Ma'am Pinky. It's actually a new feature included in the election code of the Bangsamoro Electoral Code, and therefore we have to implement that. It's a mandatory requirement. After the enumeration of the names of the candidates, may nakalagay sa uli, none of the above. After the enumeration of the names of the 7 political parties, merong none of the above. Technically, if you're going to read the election code nila, the none of the above is a candidate by itself.
I see. So kung hindi po nila, kung wala po silang gusto, dun sila sa none of the above.
Yes, Ma'am
That's the
Pinky.
option.
However, on another later on, another episode mo, maybe we can discuss it because
Sige po.
we discovered the other night we discovered a very very big problem, and we're going to explain that
All right.
to the Bangsamoro next week.
Yeah, I think you have a meeting with them as well. So, okay, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras and have a good weekend, Sir COMELEC Chairman George Garcia. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Pinky. Salamat po.
That's On Point. Join us again on Monday, 7:30 p.m. here on BNC, the Billionario News Channel. I'm Pinky Webb. Thank you for watching.